Mini healing sesh. If you want to participate, stay around. If you don't, keep scrolling. Connect with me. Take a deep breath in. Drop your shoulders. Ground into the space beneath you. We're going to breathe in through our chakras. I'm getting ready to hold a crystal in front of you. And with each color, you're going to breathe that color into that specific chakra and breathe out. Ready? Root chakra. Breathe in. Breathe out. Sacral chakra, breathe in, breathe out. Solar plexus, breathe in, breathe out. Heart, breathe in, breathe out. Throat, breathe in, breathe out. Third eye, breathe in, breathe out. Crown, breathe in, breathe out. If you're a bit dizzy, that's okay. Stomp your feet on the ground and breathe normally.
Things you didn't know happen when you actually heal your gut. No more bloating on a daily basis. More energy for fun activities. You can think more clearly again and less brain fog. Clear skin, less joint and muscle pain. You finally get your confidence back and you feel like yourself again. So what are you waiting for? Follow me for all the tips and tricks to start healing your gut today.
The ultimate
What's going
cleanse.
on, people? It's Vegan Black Guy, and today we're doing another cleanse. So if you're squeamish, look away. This is called mucoid plaque, and yes, it's coming from where you think it's coming from. It's a mucus-like material that coats the lining of your gastrointestinal tract. Here it is again and again. It's basically caused by years of eating meat and other greasy, unhealthy foods, and 9 times out of 10, you have it. But today, we're getting rid of it. We got black chia seeds, activated charcoal, bentonite clay, a lemon, whole psyllium husk, and alkaline water. 2 tablespoons of bentonite clay. I'm gonna eyeball it here. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. 2 capsules of activated charcoal. About a tablespoon of lemon juice, and there we go. 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk. Shake it up. Bottoms up.
Tips from a doctor. Okay guys, let's talk detoxes, juice cleanses, detox teas, water cleanses. Let me tell you something. They're a scam. See, people will have you believe that you need to buy these things in order to help cleanse out your gut, to help with weight loss, to help improve your energy levels, or to help remove toxins from your body. But the truth is there's no medical evidence to suggest that any of these work or that they're even necessary. Let me fill you in on a little secret. You already have organs in place that already do that. It's called your kidneys and your liver. Unless you have some type of medical condition, your body does an excellent job of filtering out toxins. Any weight you do lose on these cleanses, you'll immediately gain back. So focus on eating a healthy diet rich in fruits and vegetables, drinking water, exercising, and do not waste your hard-earned money on these products.
Well, that's 2 different views.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5 Black Comics. Today, we are super excited because we have on our show today the great, the one and only, our new friend, Gina Fiore. Welcome, Gina. We so love having you on the show. We're really excited about having you on the show. Gina has a book out. It's called My Italian Therapy, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. Today, we're also going to discuss the high mortality rate of Black people. So that's going to be a side topic. But before we get into that topic, we're going to talk to Gina about her book. Gina's mission statement is healing your body, mind, and soul. It seems like you can really heal your body if you really put your mind to it. I guess that's what Gina is saying, that Big Pharma, in my opinion, is not in the business of healing or curing, I should say. They're in the business of covering up symptoms to make you feel better for a period of time. Gina has been through a journey started in 1998, if I remember correctly. But you can tell us more about your journey and what you've done, how you've gotten this far, and what you've been through. Before I get into that, I found out Gina has some favorite movies. There was a lot. I just chose a few. I chose a few. Toy Story 2, not 1. Toy Story 2, one of Gina's favorite movies. Pearl Harbor, American Gangster, the B movie. I think that's a Seinfeld movie. And X-Men 2. So apparently Gina has a problem with the first movies that come out. She just goes to the second movie.
Hey, Pearl Harbor is one of my favorite movies too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that movie.
Yeah. So
we'll have to discuss that. I don't know where you must have got that from Facebook.
I got it from your Facebook list. I just thought it was interesting. You like the second movie of Toy Story and X-Men. So yeah, Gina. So tell us about your book and your journey and how it all started and how you got to where you are.
Well, that's so open-ended, Carl.
Okay.
I first want to say I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been watching the show for a year, and I feel like you all are a part of my family. And one of our family members is missing, and I want to raise my glass to Preach, who is not here with us today.
That's right. I got one too. I got my red cup.
And my condolences, Carl, and then anybody who watches the show and his family and friends. I wanted to make mention of that. Yes. He's here in spirit.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you. I'm so happy to be here. My book is interesting because even though it was about my cancer journey, and that is kind of how it started, getting cancer, breast cancer, it was actually 97, changed my entire existence because I began to learn. I had no self-esteem. I had anxiety, depression. I was unhappy. I wasn't doing anything that I enjoyed really, except partying, drinking. I had addictions, all of those things. And I was living with an abusive alcoholic, and I didn't know what that was until I started spending time with that person, and I learned about that. So the transition for me, I know when people get diagnosed with cancer that they think that it's the end of their life, and it's a frightening, fearful thing. But I already had fears of all kinds, insecurities, fears. So I honestly have to say that getting cancer gave me my life back. I really didn't have a life until I got sick. I sought out alternative therapy, and I can't think of exactly how it started, but I did start with the Gerson therapy, which basically is alternative, and anybody can Google Gerson.com. I had the pleasure of meeting Charlotte Gerson. I had gone to got to see her in Seattle. And so what happened was my cancer, and anybody who's been involved with somebody who has cancer or has cancer themselves, it's pretty frightening, and it can take over your life. And one thing I learned through the years, and it's been 24 years now, is I do not let it own me. And I educate myself, and I changed my life. And one thing I did change was my health, my friends, my lifestyle. I mean, I completely changed everything. It was like I knew nothing. I was cranky, and I complained, and I blamed everybody. And after I realized, oh my goodness, well, wow, what part do I have to play in this problem that I'm having? Yes. And it started looking at me. Wow, why am I in this relationship? Why am I so unhappy? Why am I complaining? And then after you start doing that, you live as if you are happy initially, even if you're not, and you live as if you are healthy, and you begin one step at a time. So it's kind of hard to answer that question. That's so all encapsulating, Carl.
Okay, that's so did you totally disregard chemo? Was that not an option for you? You just went right for the holistic?
Well, not initially. I did do radiation. I didn't do chemo. Yes, I did start seeking out alternatives only because they didn't suggest chemo until after my surgery. And somehow I started going down the no chemo road, and I haven't had any since then. And I've been re-diagnosed many times.
Wow.
Okay. What is chemo?
Chemo is chemicals that they use that is supposed to kill the cancer in your body, but that means it affects your entire body, when in reality, just from my own personal experience, my cancer was in my left breast, which actually is on the opposite side here. And they initially did a lumpectomy, and then 15 years later it came back and I had a mastectomy. And then 5 years later it came back above the mastectomy, and it kept coming back in the same place. So for me to try and conceptualize doing something for my entire body that is toxic makes no sense to me. So I started enhancing my immune system and changing my lifestyle into more positive lifestyle. And 24 years later, I'm so happy. Look, I'm on my comments.
So I have a question. In your book, do you talk about so sometimes we get so caught up in the matrix of life and everything happening. Do you think you were able to beat it because you took responsibility, and B, you started letting go of all the negative stuff that may have been causing the physical stuff to be even worse?
It's probably all those things, because the negativity, I had so much negativity. I was angry, negativity. I was unhappy. I was insecure. I didn't really have a life. So yes, that's very much part of it, because all of those things, do antagonize your body, and the stress hormones and the cortisol and everything is enhanced when you're angry and you're unhealthy. You're not eating anything healthy. You're not putting anything good into your body.
Right. And if you're not around people that are uplifting you and giving you light, if you're around people draining you, I believe that makes your health 20 times worse. So in traveling to Italy, that's my most important part of the book. You traveled all over. I see the pictures. They're gorgeous. What made you pick Italy? I mean, obviously for your background, but what made you pick it? Or was there something else about it? The culture, the people, the food?
Well, I'd been going to Italy for quite a few years before I wrote the book in 2010. And it was kind of a strange thing. It was like Thanksgiving night, and this voice said, "Go to Italy and write a book." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right." And so I'm like, wow, is that one of those messages that comes to you that if you don't pay attention to it, then it goes to someone else? I said, "Oh, I'm not going to let it go." Okay. So I said, "All right, I get it. I hear you. But you know what? You got to give me something here." And then it's actually, I talk about this in the book. And it was a progression, and it was like, "Oh, I need a sign. Give me a sign." I know that sounds so Italian, but I needed a sign. And by New Year's Eve night, I got a sign. And I talk about that in the book. And I booked my reservation, and I just did it because I didn't have the money to do it. It's like, how am I going to do this? I don't have the money to do it. I got to do this. I got to, you always come up with like 1,000 reasons why you can't do something. And I said, nope, just going to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. And I did it. Oh, and then once you start doing that kind of thing, then every time you do something that's kind of challenging, it makes it easier and easier. And then finally, you're just chucking on down.
Like learning how to walk for a baby.
Yeah. So I rented, I subleased a place in Rome, and I was there 3 months. And the books, I didn't even know what I was going to Italy to write. I didn't even know what the book was going to be about. So the minute I got off the plane, all of a sudden, all of this information just started and it started with poems and stories. And that's kind of how it started. And I went, oh, I guess this is part of the book. Okay, I'll just write it down. So every day I had the same routine. Every day. It was like a muse and just every day. So it just happened. It was like it was channeled something.
Do you think that you followed your instinct or your calling, I guess you could say, that that's what led you to all this great stuff, you know, the healing, the coming to realization of taking responsibility, like, okay, maybe I can have a better attitude and then maybe I'll get better results and then I'll be around better people and then things will get better, or is just coincidence, you know?
No, I don't believe in, well, coincidence. No, it kind of started like I was in a really super bad place. And I had to change my friends because the only friends I had were the ones that were partying that had bad habits like me.
Right.
So once I started to do that and started to juice and do healthy things, my whole life changed. I mean, I got out of that relationship and it just, 24 years of wow. And then the book happened and I don't know, every day it's a progression. You just add one thing at a time. Like I said earlier, you have to act as if, even if you're not, and then eventually you will be, but you have to really believe that things can be better and you have to believe that you can do something before you make the step. Just make the step. It's like
Fake it to make it. Fake it
to make it. Just do it.
I think you just answered my question in that you said it was a progression, because I can remember at times there was things I wanted to do in my life, even do stand up or lose weight. And it was always like one event, either something in the future that I was fearful of that I wouldn't be prepared for, or something that just happened to me. Like I go to ride on the Superman ride at Six Flags and I'm too big to fit in the ride. And so I didn't even want to sit in there and try and sit in it. And I go, what kind of life am I living that I can't enjoy life? And it made me switch automatically. Is there any specific incident that caused you to finally make the change? Was it when the doctor said, yes, you have cancer? Or was it like when you got home and you started thinking about, I want your opinion on, or your answer on what caused you to finally switch paths and go down towards the right way you've gone?
Well, first I want to say, when you want to do something and you can't, and you want to do it bad enough, just like what you said, what kind of life would I have if I can't go on this ride? And you just start making the changes, right? And I can't honestly remember. There's a chapter in the book, and there's a story, and there is a story for each chapter in the book, and one is called The Line. And it's going over the line. Like, you can't just kind of hang on the line. You can't just like kind of go back and forth. You have to make a decision.
Right.
And at some point in my life, way back, I found myself on the other side of that line, and I'm like, wow, I can't go that way anymore. Oh, that's so cool. I can't exactly remember when it happened, but it's a lot of little things. And I know people always think that you have to do these big, gigantic things, but really it's all the little things added up all together that really make our life every day. And I learned how to focus more, and I learned to not stress, and I learned to have more patience, although those are always things that I'm striving to be better at. But yeah, I don't remember when I crossed that line or made that change. It was just a slow progression of one little thing at a time, like, starting to juice, going to see Charlotte Gerson, changing the things I ate, changing what my deodorant from antiperspirant, changing my hair products, using water filters, eating organic. I started exercising. I had a routine. I try and have a consistent day. There were just so many things. And once you start doing that, eventually you're no longer the same person you were even months before.
So it seems like when you started, sorry, go ahead, Kev.
I was going to ask Gina. So when you made the decision, I guess, did your doctors try to talk you out of it, or tell you, it would be dangerous to take that route? I mean,
you mean when I didn't do the chemotherapy?
The doctor told you had cancer, and you said, and obviously when you have cancer, they want to put you on chemo, they want to give you all sorts of chemicals and medicines, but you decided to go the alternative route. Did they try to talk you out of it, or tell you it was crazy to do that? Or, I'm just curious what doctors do when patients tell them, I'm going to start eating organic, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to take your chemo, and I'm not going to do this. What do they do at that point?
Well, that didn't happen all at once either. When I was diagnosed, I had a team. I had the radiation doctor, the surgeon, and the oncologist. And so, you definitely want to take a tape recorder and you definitely want to write down what they say and you bring a friend, because when you go to those appointments, you can't remember anything. Like your brain just tunes off. I talk about that in the book. It was only incremental meetings and things I started to begin to learn. Like I went to something up in Big Sky where there were doctors from Dallas and they had different, I don't even remember how I found these places. I went to meetings and I learned all about organic food and the meat and the hormones and the water filters and the, the toxicity and and how our hormones cause toxicity and how things we eat cause toxicity and about sugar. And I mean, it just goes on. And then I went to go see Charlotte Gerson. So I had little time in between the time I did do the surgery and radiation. And when I went to see Charlotte Gerson, it was kind of like, that was like the last little thing that I needed to give me that little bit of confidence. But when I went in, not only did I have to convince the person I was in a relationship with that I wasn't doing it, because he was adamant about me doing the chemo. And I'm like, but I left that relationship anyway, because that was toxic. So you got to get rid of that one first. I had to go in and tell my oncologist, and I had this book of recipes from Dr. Gerson. And Dr. Gerson was died in the early 1900s. He was born in the 1800s. And he had a book of 50 studies, and he also had a book of recipes. And his daughter, Charlotte, who just died last year, she was in her 90s, she continued his legacy. So there was always more information. But I went in there all confident with my book, go in with my book, talk to the oncologist, and she's like, because they told me, do you want to have children? And I'm like, well, I don't know. They asked me all these questions. I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? Because you may never be able to have children again, because the chemotherapy will, could possibly destroy your reproductive system, and on and on. So I was so confident. And I said, I'm going to do everything I've been doing. I'm not going to do the tamoxifen, and I'm not going to do the chemotherapy. And she cried. It's in the book. She cried. And I don't know if she cried because she really thought I was going to be dead. That was 24 years ago. Or if she cried because I wasn't making her Mercedes-Benz payment. I don't know. I'm joking. But then another example, back in 2016, it came back again. And I went to UAMS in Little Rock. And I had an oncologist there, and she told me that this time it was metastasis, that I had 6 months to a year to live if I didn't do chemo. That was 5 years ago. 5. And she was Italian. It's because it's a teaching hospital. So that's 24 years. So I can't truly say, we never will know if I would have been like that anyway, because it has come back several times. Or if I would have done it, I would have been the same. I don't know. All I know is I can only do what I did for me. The only advice I can say is if somebody chooses to do chemotherapy, you really have to believe in whether you do it or whether you don't. You just have to believe it wholeheartedly.
Right.
And be able to, no matter what happens in your life, you can't go back and say, oh, I should have, would have, could have.
Right.
No.
So at what stage was your cancer when you got diagnosed? Stage 1, 2?
It was stage 1. It was encapsulated, and it was not in my lymph nodes.
Okay.
That's good.
So, and it was 15 years before it came back again in the
Did you
same
catch
breath.
it, or was it caught during an office visit, like a routine doctor's visit?
No, I found it both times. The first time I was doing a breast exam, which I highly recommend if women don't do their breast exam every month. And then the second time it was an infection. And that's when I had the mastectomy. And I didn't do the implants. I did a surgery where they go and they take your abdomen and they create a breast. And I only did the mastectomy on one side.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So I this is interesting to me as a woman, especially because that there are other alternatives and methods, and like you said, something may work for me and may not work for somebody else, and we really don't know. If it's just this is not your time, so no matter what happens, you're gonna fight through it or whatever. But I do believe, and what I love about your book is that that you take ownership and you dug and found what methods could work for you. You know what I'm saying? Most people give up and be like, I had stage 1 thousands of years ago. And, I remember first hearing like, oh, you're such and such. And you're like, what? First thing you think, my world's going to end. Everything's done. Especially when you have a kid. It's like the worst diagnosis you could probably get. But the fact that you took it the horse by the reins, as they say, and you decided which way you're going to ride that chariot. You know what I'm saying? And that to me is the brilliance of my Italian therapy, is that you can clearly see that here's the woman who's taking 100% responsibility and charge of her life, and she will not allow any excuses. So that's what I love about the book. And it's in audio. Is that what we have it in now?
I actually did the audio book myself in a recording studio during COVID.
Oh wow!
In 2020. So it's actually me.
Yes, I remember. Remember, I used to call you. You're like, I gotta go to the studio.
I gotta go.
I'm curious about this. A lot of.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm curious about this. A lot of times when people are faced with a life or death kind of thing, they either turn more religious and think of a higher power, or they turn away. And my own beliefs is that you kind of have to, it's works. Like, see, you put in work, like you use your mind to get yourself to do the things that you needed to do, that you thought you needed to do to be healthy. I like that approach, and I also would include prayer and focus and meditation. What did you do, and has it helped, or do you think it wasn't really a factor?
I totally agree with what you're saying. Is you do need to. It's like body, mind, and spirit. It's a holistic approach.
Yes,
I've done everything. I mean, like I didn't go crazy and just like go to ashrams and run around. Although I did go to. I did do trips and things. You really have to pick your battles, because people will start, when they find out you're sick, they start sending you all this information, and it becomes overwhelming. So you have to choose, and you got to, juicing and walking, and, the Gerson therapy was pretty intense, and then herbs and vitamins and food and hormone, so you basically just have to take one step at a time. Everything works. Changing friends work. I started with Alcoholics Anonymous because I was involved with an alcoholic that I didn't know what that was. And then I went to various AA type things, and I realized that I was a codependent. I wasn't an alcoholic, although I could drink like the best of them. I actually could dance better when I was drinking. I don't have to do that anymore. But I ended up finding.
I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad there was no Facebook back then. Oh boy. But it all helps, and you get different and healthier, and you just. It's the discipline, and you have to have a faith and a belief in a higher power, God, whatever, you have to have faith in something, and just, plug through. I used to have months where I was in a bad state. Mm-hmm. Now I have minutes. Right. Like I could call Tanya and I could say, oh, I'm just this, that, and the other thing. And then you have a conversation, it's gone. I mean, I tell you, it really makes a big difference, because you could really be stuck in the muck and mire. And then also I have seen where people get sick. They get sick, they have cancer, and then they use it like a crutch about everything. Well, I can't do that because I have cancer. Or I can't do that. So I was kind of sad that I didn't lose my hair and do chemo, because I was all about the wigs and the scarves. I kind of got bummed out about that part. But no one ever knew I was sick, and that was very hard for me, because I had to be extremely strong, because everybody's like, oh, you're strong, you could do it. And sometimes you're just crumbling inside, and all you want somebody to do is just hang out, bring a meal or something, and everybody's like, oh, you got this. It's still hard every day for 24 years. It's like even like people that are a drug addict or alcoholic or have mental illness, you have to work at it to stay healthy. It's a constant battle, and you have to give yourself affirmations every day and find something wonderful to get up for every day. It's a job. It's part of your life.
This is not meant to be a funny question, but can men find lumps? in breast?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
there is male breast cancer.
Yeah, they're really
No. I'm asking, can men help women find love?
Of course they can.
Actually, I've heard some stories.
Of course they can. I bet you guys could find it better than we
I
can.
mean, right?
Like, what's this?
I,
It's not. Well,
You can't,
knowing
I know
guys,
you can't,
guys,
you can't
like,
help
I'm gonna tell you
yourself,
about this
Paul.
lump after I'm done.
right. Well, you gotta make fun. When
Seriously, I mean, like the lumps could be anywhere in the breast, and I'm serious. Like, they're not like at the nipple or the.
No, you can have them there too, and you can be anywhere.
Anywhere.
Mine are on the bottom.
Armpits,
They can be anywhere.
under the armpit,
Under the armpit.
there's a quadrant of that is just like breast tissue, and it can be anywhere in that radius. Mine came back above my mastectomy, so it came back underneath my clavicle several times.
What does it feel like? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it?
It's like a lump.
It's like a lump. It's a hard lump. It's not like mushy, so it's not like a cyst or anything. It's a hard lump. Yeah.
Like those little candies your mom used to put in the dish during the holiday, the round butterball.
Yeah, like a hard.
It feels like that, but maybe not so big. The first one was the size of a pea, but once they take out that radius to make sure that they have enough radius to get rid of the cancer, it ends up being from a pea to a softball.
Right.
And then most women, they have like a third of a breast and that kind of thing. But it's pretty traumatic because when you do have a mastectomy, it is a loss. You've lost part of your body and it doesn't work the same anymore. So and that's trauma.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Women say even using the arm, depending on what they had, using the arm, even that becomes another
trauma.
Yeah,
they cut the nerves. You can have fluid in the arm. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, I was saying it's like if a man had to lose one of his testicles.
Right.
Yeah, probably like that.
From prostate. Yep. Absolutely. I would consider that we can call that fair game. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's part of you, and it maybe other people outwardly don't notice that it's gone.
Right.
But I mean, it's gone, and it's part of your body. So anything that's taken off.
Right. Absolutely.
I would tell everybody to have one testicle.
you would.
They put
probably use it in your skits.
You probably, Kevin. Kevin, you probably go out and get a handicap license plates too, right?
I can see it now. His next show. Now we know what he's going to be talking about.
Gina, what do you think out of all the lessons that you've learned through your traveling, through healing, through the cancer, through all of that, what is the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway that you learned from all of it?
Wow, biggest takeaway. Mm-hmm. I would say I always know that everyone now has a journey. Other people are dealing with a journey, and sometimes they're cranky and sometimes they're sad, and you never really know. So you just need to be kind.
I like that. Everybody's on a journey because that's really what it's about, and your own pace. That's the best part. It seemed like you did everything when Gina wanted to do it. You didn't let
everything kind of came as it came. I don't know if sometimes I didn't want to do something that appeared, and I'm like, I really don't want to do that, but I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then it's just you just do what comes along, and whatever that next step is. We're on the journey.
I call that courage.
It takes a lot of courage.
Courage.
But I think most people who
I have a question.
Work on improving. Oh, go ahead, Des.
Go ahead, Des.
Sorry, did I cut you off? Go ahead.
Fine.
No, go ahead, Des.
Oh, I had a question. Specifically, I'm always giving my kids game, like how to go with life. When this happens, you do this. When this happens, you do that. And ever since the events that happened last week with us losing Preach, it seems like everything that comes out of my mouth is teaching my kids so that they can carry on and do what they need to do if I'm not here. Do you see, or did you feel yourself doing that? Do you do that with your children or anyone around you? How's that relationship work?
That's a good one.
That's an interesting question, and a lot of times people already have children. I didn't have any children. I had my son 3 years later.
Wow.
And from the moment he was born, he was taught to be independent. And because I didn't know if I was going to live next month, next year, 5 years, now he's 21.
Wow.
So I kind of let him go early. It's like the empty nest thing. He went back to Alaska. The thing that I learned, though, which is really a good thing, I thought, for me, is I had to learn to let go. Like, people hang on, they go empty nest, and they're all sad, and they're lonely, and they're lost. And I had to deal with that. And I went through some health issues just dealing with the fact that he wasn't with me. He went back up to Alaska, and then I got over it. That was 2009. Interesting that you'd mention that. 2009 was the last. I went up to Alaska because I had a summer business there, and we were living in Northwest Arkansas in the winter. And my son had just gone up to Alaska to stay, and I went up to run the business, and he was there, and I was leaving without him. And I was depressed. It was sad, and I had to get over it. And I went on a trip with my friend Linda, and then when I got back, that's when I got that go to Italy and write a book, because I didn't have my son. And I went through probably not letting myself be okay. It's like, it's okay to be okay. He was healthy, he was loved, and he was getting educated, and he had a place to live, and he was eating. So I said, what am I depressed about? He's fine. So we need to give ourselves permission to live our lives when our children go to choose something else to do. So teach your children to be independent, but also you and your wife learn how to be independent, and it's okay to not worry about them so much, because they'll be okay.
Did you ever go back to the doctors that wanted you to do chemo and radiation, like 24 years later?
No, but I wrote it in the book. I'm like, I didn't mention her name, but I'm like, hey, doc, look, I'm still here.
Good for you.
I remember her name. I don't know if she's still there, but yeah, I moved away from Montana several states ago, so never crossed that bridge. So thought about it, Carl.
No,
I would have sent her a note like Hannibal Lecter.
I don't know if I did. I don't remember. I think I might have sent her a note. I don't remember.
Now, what made you go this route? I mean, who put that in your mind? How did you come up with the idea of this kind of therapy as opposed to the traditional chemo and radiation?
Right.
I don't know. I could say God. I don't know, because I didn't know anybody who was doing it. So I started, I don't know. It was something like, this doesn't feel right. I think I had thyroid problems a few years ago, and I had more of an alternative doctor who had me change my diet, a yeast-free diet, and I got rid of the thyroid disease. So it was before then, and then when I got the cancer, I started thinking, I did the diet thing. It just poisoning myself just doesn't seem like, and I'm not criticizing anybody who does. Everybody has their choices. For me, it just didn't work. I couldn't grasp it. And then when I started, it was just a journey. I can't answer that.
So, specifically about your diet, what are the pillars? What is your focus when it comes to your diet?
Well, since I moved to New York State and I've been working on a house 12 hours a day, I must say I'm not as diligent as I've been. But I do a lot of I have water filters, and I only drink water that's good water. And I only bathe in good water. I do lemon in my water. I do smoothies. I have hundreds of supplements, like, for everything. So what I don't put in the smoothie, I take herbs, oils, meditation, food, chicken, fish. I'm not a vegan. Chicken, fish. I just really am very careful. Lots of veggies, all organic. I'm really weird, when I go out to eat, because I'm like, oh, I don't know where that food came from, Right. So I'm weird. That weird. And then sometimes I won't eat something, but I'm not awful about it. I'll go out to eat, and it's just, I think if you do most of something, and you're pretty good about it, I'd say like 80%, maybe 85. Right. That other 15, man, I love bacon too. I get organic bacon or turkey bacon. I love bacon. So I have bacon with my eggs sometimes. I'm not going to not have bacon. I like pizza. I have that too once in a while. Right. I'm not going to,
Right. Well, do what you can. Right.
Who's going to know if it's going to take 6 months or a year off your life or 2 minutes? We don't know.
Right. Now, are there any family members that wasn't on board with you and taking this route?
Memories?
Family members that were like, Gina, come on, you got to do the chemo and you got to do the radiation.
Most of my friends were kind of like drinker, partier people, so they didn't really care. They didn't have a clue what I was doing. I still have some of them today. They were a lot more healthy than me at the time. But I wasn't living near family.
Oh.
And so basically they don't really have a choice because I was too involved with what I was doing and they weren't there to, they probably would have put more pressure on me. It would have been very difficult. I do talk about that in the book, about sometimes it's family you have to let go of. Sometimes you have toxic family. I know some of you know what that's like. You have toxic friends, toxic family, and sometimes you have to walk away. It might not be forever, but it might be for the moment until you heal and get strong, and then you can be an example, but you have to learn how to deal with them, that it's not affecting you in a negative way.
Absolutely. Because that trauma is real. Past trauma can be real from family and friends.
Well, through the years, though, I have people in my life, like you guys, for example, you put positive people in your life, you're not going to get a negative feedback. You might get questions, but somebody's not going to push you down.
Right.
You need people that uplift you, people that are educating themselves, people are learning, growing. Right. That growth thing, I didn't do that back then. I do it now.
So we admire you so much because we spent a whole year beating on white people. Look at you.
Oh my God, you do not.
You're here with us.
I love you guys.
And our faith.
White people, and you still love us. We must be doing something right.
Yeah. Oh my God, Kevin, I'm like the first one to be beating up white people. It's like it's embarrassing sometimes, the things that people in general do. And I got to tell you, this health thing, the health. And your mind and your body and your spirit, it's for everybody. It doesn't have any socio-economic, geographical boundaries. Right. It's like it's for everyone. So there you go.
Which is a great segue to our next segment.
Yes, I was just about to say it.
That's perfect.
I'm glad that that Kevin said that, because I always wonder, like, people like Gina, white people like Gina, and I have quite a few friends. Like, what kind of upbringing did you have? Because I mean, I would meet 100 white people. I would meet 100 white people, like the Trumpsters, before I meet like one Gina. You know what I mean? So that's probably why when you said you went into that Lowe's and some of the black people were nice and some of them weren't so nice, is because you meet so many white people who are not accommodating to black people, and then when you do meet one like such as yourself, you know what I mean, you're still kind of skeptical. So I think that's the best way to explain why some of us, because I'm very skeptical when I meet white people. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking they're racist, but I'm watching, I'm waiting for some sign that, you know what I mean?
Well, my head is spinning right now. This is where I get, like, I think about the beginning of time.
I'm always curious, and I've asked my other white friends, like, how was you raised? Or what kind of parents did you have? How come we have this guy over here who is afraid of black people, gets nervous when they see black people, like those cops who shoot black people, and they're shooting black people because they're afraid. They're scared. They know nothing about black people. And what's to know? Like, I grew up in Barbados. I was the farthest away from white people compared to like Desi and Tanya and Kevin, who live with white people. But when I came to America and I saw white people, I wasn't like, oh my God, what do I say? They're white. No, like, they're just people. So why is it that they don't see black?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Desi, can you see the pain in my face?
Like, I have a white friend say to me, "Oh, my friend who's white, he didn't grow up around black. He didn't grow up around black people." What the hell does that mean?
Right.
What does that even mean? Like, I didn't grow up around white people,
and to correct you, yes, I live in a white area now, but before I was a foster kid, and I lived in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, so I came from all black. Except for my grandpa, which we found out, I told you, is not fully white. But except for him, all black. And then I moved to Bedford area, and I was like, it didn't even dawn on me to think like, oh, until someone said it. So
Yeah.
right. I didn't go,
basically,
oh my God.
Basically, it's Carl's question. I would love to hear that answer too, because everybody has this cliche, but the best man in my wedding, my true brother, is an Italian white guy, and I've had all kind of relationships with everyone. But I'm always curious, what were you taught, and how did you how did you clear up the BS that you were taught to get to the real person? Some people were taught from the beginning, people are people and you should love everybody. But a lot of people are taught one thing and then relationship. My father's best friend is a Ku Klux Klanman. He was in the Klan, but he ended up liking a Mexican girl. So his father kicked him out of the Klan, and then he discovered God, and now he's my father's best friend. I still look at him like this every time he's around. But
No,
were you taught from young about race, or was it something that you observed through observation? Hey, everybody's good. Everybody's.
But Gina and I became friends because she said I started a post with "Good morning, white people."
Yes,
it was on Facebook. I was scrolling through and it said, "Good morning, white people," and I went, "Who would write that?" And the first thing I thought was, who would even write something like that? And then I went and I saw Carl was black and I went, oh, he's a comedian. I'm like, oh. And then I started following him. Oh my gosh, it's just so funny. Yeah, it stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, that would stop anybody.
So,
stop us in our tracks.
Carl, you stop us in our tracks.
Yeah.
But, so you wanted me to answer this question?
Yeah, like how come you are so nice and other people are not so nice, basically?
Well, I've always been nice. I just was confused. I was confused because I grew up in a Catholic Italian family in a town where there were Italians and Polish people and no one else.
Right.
And I love my family. I was adopted and I have a wonderful family, and and it's not their fault that they think the way that they do, and I'm not going to criticize them for it. But when I left New Jersey, I'm upstate New York right now, but I went to Montana, and it wasn't until way long time, and I watched Malcolm X, I think, and it really affected me. And then I saw another show on Native Americans, and it really affected me. And then I started realizing that I wasn't taught the correct history. And then I started researching my own. I never really had a problem with other people, and I traveled internationally. You can't travel internationally and have a problem with other cultures.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that really has a lot to do with it. But the very place, I was in a relationship and I lived in Harrison, Arkansas, and I did not move to Harrison, Arkansas. I moved to Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Hello, Eureka Springs, Arkansas people. That is not Arkansas. And I met somebody. I ended up moving outside of Harrison, Arkansas. And I have a friend, 2 friends in Little Rock, and they said to me, "We will never come visit you because Harrison was a sundown town." And I thought, what the hell is that? I never heard of that. And then I started researching it out. And then I started researching out Harrison, because that's where the Ku Klux Klan is, just north of there in Zinc. And then I started researching out where I grew up in Manville, New Jersey. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that school where the termites were that they knocked down, that they say was a black tenement building, they kicked those black people out and sent them over to where the black people are in Somerville. That's basically how I grew up. The blacks are in Somerville. Be careful. You don't want to go there at night. You don't want to go to Somerville if you don't have to. There's nothing wrong with Somerville. Right. So see, those kinds of things just like fried my brain. And I grew up Catholic too, so I'm recovering. I'm forever recovering from being Catholic.
Good luck with that.
So you answered the question. You took time to research.
Yes.
Yeah.
After I became an adult.
Yeah. That answers my question.
Like, oh, look, that's where the Jewish people live. And I'm like, well, Jesus was a Jew. I'm so confused. You can't separate people out like that. You can't point people out and over there, and they live over there and they're moving into that neighborhood, so you got to move out. Yeah. To me, that makes no sense. People are people, and their behavior people's behavior, no matter who they are or what they are or where they are, is what affects me.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
So the world would be a much better place if everybody did that, right?
If we duplicate her,
absolutely.
we need to duplicate her.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, but we need people all over the world who love people, and if they do something bad, isn't there the one meme I've seen on Facebook that I could always stays in my head.
Mhm.
There's a tribe in Africa, and they have the person that they put in the middle that did a bad thing.
Oh.
And for 2 or 3 days, the village surrounds them and tells them wonderful things about them. Instead of punishing them or putting them in jail or cutting their hands off or whatever. I think that's wonderful, because the minute that somebody does somebody wrong, they are the worst person on earth. And that is where forgiveness comes in. And, you can't be angry all the time, and you can't expect a society to improve anything on anger. And examples do change other people's, there's been Ku Klux Klan members who have changed because other people outside of their Ku Klux Klan-y thing have, kind of taken them in, whatever you want to call it.
Like David Duke? Like David Duke?
Like David Duke's son, for example. I think it's David Duke's son. Is he the one who
he's running for some kind of office now?
Yeah, he changed.
I was gonna say, he's got ulterior motive, I call it.
Yeah, but I watched the show on him. It's pretty interesting.
Changed, Lord.
Well, I think it's more than that, but I don't know. So I just think people just need to be a little bit more open and realize that everybody has the same kind of sadness and loss and gain and life. And they get up and they put their pants on the same leg. They make food. They go to work. They want to be happy. I'm not talking the Taliban now. We're not talking extremists. We're talking about the average person all over the world.
Let me ask you a question, because we have a show coming up probably next week, I believe. We're doing a show on, can Black people be racist? So what I'm hearing you saying, you correct me if I'm wrong, you grew up basically around racist people, you believe, right?
Most likely.
Okay, because and that's funny. You're from Jersey, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I was just on the phone with a comedy buddy of mine, and we were talking maybe 48 hours ago. And I was telling him, I mean, he knows, he's been knowing me for years, but I perform all over the world. But one of the most racist places I've been on stage was in New Jersey.
That's interesting.
Because I perform a lot in the South, So you think when you go to Alabama or Mississippi or any of these places to perform, you're going to deal with racism. But I said, no, I've had some of the worst racism I've dealt with has been in the northern states, New Jersey and Ohio, places like that. I've dealt with so much racism on stage or just being in those towns, So, and I tell you, one of the most racist places I've dealt with racism is in New Jersey. And it was with Italians. So I think
I wonder why. And
most Black people feel they have this thing in their mind. That's why I compliment you on being such a wonderful person, because we have this thing in our mind that Italian people don't like us, for some reason, and no,
I don't think it's that. I just think it's a not being educated or not putting themselves with other people that are not like themselves. If you stay encapsulated in the same community, and the cities, all the cities they all have their own neighborhood. It's Italian, Hungarian, Asian, Black, Latino, Puerto Rican.
And that's a problem too. Why is that? And why is we need
zoning
to get that also, right?
Well, that's part of it. But what it was is when different groups of people came over to the United States, they came together and they supported each other. And where my grandmother was my father's grandmother, my adopted grandmother, they were in Raritan. And I read an article about a year ago, and they were talking about how a bunch of Italians came from Italy, and they all chipped in, and they made sure they had food, and they would have street fairs, and everybody would make food, and they would support them until they got a job, and then they learned the language, and then they got together. So it was a community. And if you're familiar, and then people started branching out, but a lot of people do not branch out, and a lot of people let go of their culture they had because they stopped using the language, they stopped talking about it because they're in America. They want to be an American.
Yes,
and that's sad to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I know this from my stepfather, but there's also like even where I live, there's like an Italy Avenue, Milan Avenue, Rome Avenue, and I asked why, and they said everybody, you know, at that time that's what it was, and they band together because when they first came here, they were treated like we were pretty much. Only difference is they can just not say nothing and walk by and get away with it, and you know, you can see who I am, so you know right away who I am. So that's the difference. That's why I don't understand how anyone could be anything toward African Americans, especially if you went through anything even remotely similar. I would think that certain cultures would get along like this because they've seen what that looks like. Yeah, you would think.
But I've watched your show on how Africans don't necessarily like black people from America. I mean, I can't conceptualize that at all.
Well, that's
nobody likes people. That's my point.
Yeah, it's all how do I say it? It's cultural education and how I'll say how worldwide a thinker they are. How about that? Like you got out and you traveled. You saw the world. You saw that, you know, somebody in Abruzzo has a different dialect than somebody in Rome, right? You saw that. You can see the difference. But there are people who will stay in their living room and think that all Italians have the same exact. They speak the same exact Italian when there are.
Well, because they never left they have never gone to Italy and they've never traveled, or they've traveled in a tour and they really don't get to see that. But I've been to Egypt and Israel and Turkey and Greece and spent time in different parts of Mexico. And there is a big black culture in Mexico.
Oh, yes.
You go to certain parts of Mexico and there's so many different faces. I'm like
black Mexicans.
Everybody looks so different. There's not like the Mexican people that people think. It's just it's international down there. You know, from Spain, and then there's Peru, and then you've got all kinds of Aztec faces, and it's
black
phenomenal.
Mexicans too. A lot of people
Black
all over China. I mean, we've had black people everywhere.
The slaves went to Mexico, and there
Colombia.
was a big yes, right.
All over. Yeah.
So you've got that intertwined culture, and I have friends that study that, and they're very well, you know. My friend Patricia down there, she's very involved. She moved from America, and she's very involved in the black culture in Mexico. They embrace it. It's not racist like up here.
Right. And that's you said embrace. That's the magic word to racism. Most people who are racist do not embrace, and they literally shut off and go by what they were told or what they think and not what the truth is, because they don't want to know. The wall is up.
That is exactly right. I don't want to know, because if they know, then they have to change something. Then it takes effort. They have to learn. So and they have to be wrong.
Americans this way is my question. Why aren't African Americans this way? Or just blacks, period, I should say.
Because I think it's culturally embedded in us, Kevin. Since before slavery, we've always been a kind people. We've always been a loving people. We've always been forgiving. What's the word I'm looking for? We've always been like, in awe of other human beings, instead of being like, oh my God, he has on a hat. That hat might do something to me. I'd say, oh, he has on a hat. How cool is he? Look at that, Carl. Look at his hat.
But that's your attitude. That's because that's your personal growth. And that is a positive outlook and an attitude.
I think it's our culture. I think it literally is in our, maybe not DNA, but it's in our culture for some reason or another. Because my grandmother, if I wanted to go beat up Susie because Susie tried to beat me up, my grandmother, honey, you can't do that because it's a human being and God wouldn't want you to do that. So what is Tanya getting better in her head? I can't get revenge. But most people would be like, I'm going to get her back. But no matter, most of my people that I talk to, and you guys can ask and see or tell me what you think. How many would your mother whip your butt if she knew you got in a fight and you was just out there starting the fight? Silence.
If I went out and started a fight,
if you went out and just said, I'm going to go beat up Tommy because I feel like it.
Oh yeah, my mom would kick my ass.
There you go.
That would be crazy.
I get way trouble.
Huh?
But if somebody hits me, my mother would actually give me a beat.
Go all in.
So you get it on both ends.
That's my boy.
Well, you know what I noticed growing up though, and looking back, no one really talked about racism. They just never talked about it. It was like an unspoken thing that was like ingrained, and I didn't know that I was even kind of think that way, because I absolutely did have ideas but a lot of it came from television.
I was just about to say that.
Because I didn't have black friends. There wasn't any black people or Hispanic people or Asian people. There was only Polish people and Italian people, mostly, you know, that's it. And so that's how I grew up. It wasn't my fault. But we watched movies and I got a lot of things. I thought, why do I think that black people have hoodies all the time? You know, it's just like, it was so ingrained in me from movies and things. We learn a lot from those movies.
I actually thought all white people ate, and I'm not even kidding, was peas, carrots, and a piece of meat. When I watched TV in Barbados,
I did for a while.
That's all I saw on the plate was peas, carrots, and a piece of meat.
Is that what was on the movies? That's what we ate?
That is all I ever saw on the plate when they made a movie or a TV show.
Funny.
Was peas,
and some steak.
carrots, and a piece of meat and the steak.
Roasted chicken.
Chicken.
You know what I mean? Have a piece of fish, Jesus Christ.
I used to think the chicken would get up and walk to the plate, plop itself there. All right, go ahead.
So I mean, the power of television, like, you know what I mean, is you know, it's funny. Preached, rest in peace, brother. When he came to Barbados, he was surprised that we had a runway long enough for the plane to land. He was wondering, where's this plane gonna land? Like, in his mind, he probably had Gilligan's Island. You know,
yeah.
You know,
we feel that way about Africa too. Like the images we see of Africa, you know, we don't really realize that there's a lot of rich people there. You know, like I follow these people on Instagram now, this African thing on Instagram, and there are a lot of millionaires over there. You know, in big houses, and I'm talking about, you know, in big houses and driving Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, we would never know this, you know, because we was raised that African people, you know, were poor and
the media only wants to show you us starving.
Yeah,
and desolate land. That's all there is.
Africans there are, you know, who have businesses and mansions and fancy cars like we have here. You know, you don't see those images. You know,
nope.
Now social media, you can really see those images if you haven't been to African country. Yeah.
Well, I do have my friend Linda. My friend Linda that I traveled to the Middle East with. She rides her bicycle through Africa, portions of Africa, every winter. And I have a friend right now who's in a safari, and she's in Nairobi. She's going to be doing Kilimanjaro. But yeah, I've met people from Nigeria. Man, they speak better English than I do.
But it is so easy to have an open mind, Gina. I mean, like, I don't know why people.
It's not for people that have not left their town.
Yes,
right.
Because they don't know that they have to have an open mind.
Yep. They don't know. They don't see it or know, and they don't want to know. This is the worst part.
No, and then the negativity and the fear and the stories and the complaints and the whining and all that stuff.
I don't know the fear part.
TV. They're afraid of everything.
Yes, the TV fear, and some people's parents, when they're being honest, like you saw my friend Robin talked about. Not to mention her, I've had other white friends tell me that their parents were like, "Don't go to that neighborhood because them black folk," and they maybe not, you know, realizing one particular black folk, but it was them black folk. And so she grew up. I said, well, how come you know better? And she said, she's just like you. I just paid attention and realized, like, my friend over here, he's from so-and-so, and he don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. So she filtered because she was able at a very young age to realize something ain't right with what my mama's saying. I gotta think about this. And she didn't fall into it. But most people, you do exactly what your mother and father tell you. So if they say, Kevin,
you've been raised that way. That's what you learn. You have to get out of that comfort zone to be able to learn something different when you become an adult, because what your parents taught you and all your neighbors and your schools and those things, that's all you knew. And there was no social media back when we grew up.
Nope. And
Gina, just to go full circle too, what you learn to challenge as far as your health, you challenge the status quo, you challenge also religion, race, like what you were taught. And what I found is once you start questioning things and really doing an analysis, you find that 70% of it is just junk. and you
Pretty
have to
much.
really do your own. You have to come to your own, and that's why I think part of it is why you were able to write My Italian Therapy, and you were able to almost heal yourself because you questioned what the doctors were telling you, and you were able to, because that happened to me when I grew up. I was forced to go to church. I had to go every Sunday, and I started listening to what they were telling me, and like kind of using kid logic. A lot of it didn't add up, and then so through challenging it, I came to a higher level. And then you have to do that with everything. Once you start doing it, you do it everything. And that's where you're
So
living
true.
life to the fullest, because you're examining what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right.
So wait a
And do
minute,
you-
hold on, Dad. You trying to say that Moses didn't part the Red Sea?
Hey, Mary the virgin.
Him on this show.
Of course he did.
You trying to say that there wasn't a flood that killed everyone on earth?
I know. And
Except
Virgin
for one
Mary,
family.
Hey,
Virgin Mary was not a virgin.
Come on, man.
Was the flood before Adam and Eve or after Adam and Eve?
We're not questioning religion or people's choices.
Right.
It's
Right.
I just don't think, everybody learns so many different things as growing up, and it's not always what is in our own particular heart
Right.
or core. And then we grow up and we go and explore and figure out what works for us.
Yes.
That's the only way to do it.
Now, Gina, have you ever changed any of your friends' minds? Like, you ever had a friend that thought this way about Black people and you showed them the light? Have you?
I keep trying.
Yeah.
I keep getting the same stories over. It gets just like,
Well, if they watch the show, they're really gonna hate you.
I know.
I'm being real careful to not delve, because there's like 50 shows in just this conversation that we've been having. But yeah.
But how can you believe that? Yeah, how can you believe that there's a group of people that think all think the same? I mean, that's just crazy. Like,
How could I think that there's
not you? I mean, like how
people in general?
yeah. How can you say, well, all Black people like this or all whites are like this?
Oh, wait, I have friends that do that, and I don't understand. I'm like, you had a bad experience on the school bus when your school was integrated, and you feel awful about every Black person in the world. I said, that's crazy.
Most Black people have had bad
traumatizing experience with white people. We don't feel like that.
We're traumatized by racism.
True. All day, every day.
Racism, but we don't walk in fear of white people, and we should. We should be. So that's the thing that blows.
I'm scared of white people. I've had bad experiences.
Is that white people are scared of us when we should be scared of them?
Well, it's the ignorance that scares me.
That's what it is. It's ignorance.
And it's ignorance in a lot of people who box themselves in.
I mean, I dated a white girl when I was a teenager. I remember her telling me, we went to drive past her house. I remember her telling me to duck down in the seat of the car so her mom wouldn't see me, and that blew me away. I was like, wow, I got to duck I'm a human being. I'm a 17-year-old human being. I got to actually duck so your mom won't see me. Like, why?
Well, she loves you. That's why she don't want you to.
She want to lose me.
Yeah, your girlfriend loves you.
She wanted to make that decision.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's just crazy, man. That just is so crazy.
Well, don't you guys feel that? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kev.
No, I just said we have to learn about all people, though, Gina, because like a statement you said a few minutes ago about the Taliban, and we have to learn why they're so angry at Americans too. The Taliban just didn't wake up one day and go, I hate America.
That's another show.
I know that is
an upcoming show. Trust me,
it's another show, but it's in the
upcoming show. That's why I just brought it up. But we're going to talk about that in the future. But we have to examine why people in the Middle East hate Americans. It's not because they just jealous of Americans. We have some blood on our hands. We've done some dirt.
Blood.
people believe that, we went into Afghanistan to get bin Laden, who wasn't there, by the way, right? And then we stayed there for 20 years. We've been there for all these years after the guy was killed, and we're still there, But nobody wants to talk about the $1 trillion, of minerals, that Afghanistan have, and nobody wants to talk about, the oil that in the other country, Middle East countries and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about it. So it's a lot going on, Gina. Those people just don't hate us because all I want to say is they don't hate us because, yeah, they do evil things now that we see evil, cutting people's heads off and all that sort of stuff. And it's crazy that somebody would do that to another human being. But it goes deeper than that. I mean, their hatred goes deeper than that. And
yeah, that goes back to centuries.
All right. I'm gonna read a couple of comments, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Pamela Doughton, what's up, Pam?
Hi, Pam.
Pam.
Hey, Pam.
Pamela said most white people are not affected, therefore they're not bothered to even look deeper, which is true. I mean, I've heard white people say, well, I didn't grow up around black people. They can go through their entire life and not interact with black people.
That's what the girl told me. She said, I don't need to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I'm a vet.
Like my neighbors.
Yeah. Patricia, Kevin's better half.
Hey, Patricia.
She said it's a learned behavior. Yeah, it's a learned behavior. I mean, it's just true. You know what I mean? But I just don't get it. Like, you know what I mean? You can drop me in an island, like I said, in the South Pacific with people I never met in my life, and I'm not going to go, well, I don't know what those people are. No, I'm going to go over and talk to them. You know what I mean? And then they will have to give me a reason not to like them. So this whole thing where people are going, well, I didn't grow up around black, I didn't grow up around Chinese or whatever. It's just, I mean, it's just part being lazy.
Right. Well, like Gina said in her, I think you talked about taking ownership for whatever that is. So that can apply to this too. You take ownership that, no, I didn't do my research and I didn't check out other black people. I only checked out one or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. If you don't do the research yourself and come to your own conclusion, you will go by whatever everyone else tells you or the media.
Yeah. And I think getting out of your comfort zone, traveling internationally, learning different cultures. Yes. I tried to integrate that into my son's life. So he was able to know that there's all different kinds of people and religions and cultures, not that person's bad or that thing is bad or that's bad or I don't like that because I want him to make his own mind.
Yeah.
Good for you.
All right, so Gina, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna let you have the last word. Gina's book is called My Italian Therapy.
Yes.
Healing Your Mind, Body, and Soul. Help you rise up against addiction, anxiety, depression, fear, and illness. Gina, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Gina.
I will make sure this video is saved in perpetuity.
Yes.
And if you have any last word, anything you want to say, I think I have your website correctly in there.
MyItalianTherapy.com. Yep.
And if there's anything you want to add,
they can click on the audio book.
Okay.
On the website, but well, basically, no matter what it is that is your wish, your goal, or your plan, just need to be confident, and you'll attain it. And then do your research, follow through, and you'll be sure to, progress because learning, being open.
It's like you decided you're going to do something and you did it. You didn't procrastinate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, I'm doing this therapy thing, and you just went full tilt and didn't waver at all. That's what
I do that in my life about everything.
I was going to say that seems like your personality. I'm going for it.
But I learned to do that. It wasn't like that all the time. I didn't have those skills. I learned the skills, and so we need to go out and find out what it is what it is we're missing and what it, like Desi said, I want to go on that ride. You just go out and change it. If you find something and you have to adapt or you just do it. I don't know. I just love the just do it thing.
That's right. Nike, just do
Just-
it.
All right, Desi. I know Desi's got to run because he's Mr. Family Man.
I love your kids, Des.
Thank you.
Desi, anything you want to say before you take off?
Me, I'd like to say, Gina, first of all, thank you to my esteemed co-workers here on stage. Love you guys. I had a great time today. I do have to pick up dinner for Saturday night.
It's all vegetables.
It's talent night too, so we got.
I hope you record those, Des.
Yes.
I hope you record them.
I need to.
No, you should record them. Are you kidding?
Hey, I want to see your kid to do some magic, man. I got some good tricks for him.
You got to train them.
Yes.
I will. I promise you that. I'll show him some good tricks. All right, next when we hook up, man. No doubt.
Okay, sounds good.
You got my word on that. You got my word on that, bro.
All right.
Bye, Des.
You got an apprentice. I love you guys.
All right, love you too, Des.
Love you, Des.
All right. Bye, brother.
Bye.
All right.
You, man.
All right, so I want to thank Lisa Osborne just jumped in. We were about to finish up. So I want to thank Lisa. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My mic went out there for a second. Sorry.
I got you.
So I'm just thanking people that were on the show today. I can't get everyone, like I always said. Pamela Doughton. Thank you so much. Patricia Felix. Kevin, when are you gonna fix that last name? When you gonna fix that last name? You need to fix that last name.
Actually, we were supposed to do that last year.
Oh yeah,
October 2nd. October 2nd.
Do a monkey wrench and everything.
Lovely.
All right.
Who the hell want to be Felix anyway?
I know, right? Patricia Lee, I like that. Patricia Lee.
You can ask my other former Lees.
Yeah.
Oh, how many are there?
Two. But three's a charm, right? That's what they say.
Three's a charm. That's right.
G. Carr. I can only see the last three. It's Glendine Carter, I think. I think that looked like Glenn. But she was letting everyone know Barbados, we have an 11,000 foot airport runway.
No.
That's big.
That's big.
Big.
Very big.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I need to go to Barbados.
When the Concorde wanted to land in the Caribbean, Barbados was the only place they could land. Just a bit of trivia.
Just a trivia. Thank you. Just the Concorde can land in here. That's it. Excuse us.
I'm not showing off. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I love it.
Yeah. Concorde was flying around, couldn't land in Jamaica, couldn't land in Trinidad.
Did you come to Barbados? You're so English.
Hey, thank you to everyone for watching the show. And Catherine Shelton Tobias, I think that's how you say that.
That's
go ahead, Kev.
That's my mother.
Oh, that's your mom. Oh, I did not.
Oh, hi, Kevin's mom.
Hi,
my mom. I was from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. Hi, Catherine.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Catherine's also asking when you're going to fix Patricia's last name. I'm kidding. She didn't
Like what?
She didn't say that. So thanks to everyone. Thanks again to Gina. And once again, I want to say, RIP to our love Preach. My friend of 30-something years, been with me through thick and thin. It was really hard to watch him, laying there last Thursday when I went up to the funeral. But, he's with me, and I know he's with all of us. And to his family, I know his family watches the show. We love them very, very much. And when I did my little speech at the ceremony on Thursday, I told him that after every show and after every meeting we had, we always told each other how much we loved each other. And I'm glad he got to hear that.
Yes.
So thanks again to everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Love
right.
you guys.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Tanya. Carl.
Thank you, Gina.
Bye, Desi. And Preach.
What was the name of that show? Think John Boy and
Good night, John Boy.
The Walton.
Was it
Good night, Carl.
Good night, Gina.
Good night, Kevin.
Kevin.
Good night.
Good night, Tanya.
Good night, Gina.
Good night, Kevin.
Gina.
Good night.